All right, hello everybody. I just wanted to check and make sure that my video and my audio were coming through okay. So if you can hear me, maybe drop a note in the chat. Great. Thank you. Wonderful. We're just going to wait a few minutes for everyone to arrive. And while we're waiting, I put together a fun little poll. We're going to do some polls during this presentation. I'm curious about who's here, and I just want to learn a little more about you, but thanks. So this is my icebreaker poll. Let's see here. Really just want to get a sense of who's here. So this really is about, which of these professional groups is the most fun? Very subjective, obviously. It's a competition. All right, pretty good even split of folks here. I'm just assuming you voted for your own professional group. So, if you're a librarian, I'm just going to assume you think librarians are the most fun, archivists, et cetera, et cetera. So thanks for doing that. I'm going to ask you a couple more questions as we go through this. If we haven't met before, I'm Austin Sunsman. I am one of the founders of Conserv. And thanks for taking some time to join us today. I'll go ahead and kick things off. Melissa King is here with me as well. Melissa's on our team. She is our Director of Customer Success. If you have the good fortune of becoming a Conserv customer, you'll work a lot with Melissa to get set up and handle support issues. And, we don't just sell environmental monitoring equipment. We really want people to be successful in creating a quality collection environment. So it goes well beyond just giving you a sensor. We do a lot of work with our customers to just make sure they're having a great experience. So we're just going to jump right in. You probably have some context for this meeting. You signed up for the webinar. You read a little blurb about what we're up to. So we are exploring the idea of building microclimate sensors at Conserv. And so before I jump in, I'm going to do one more poll, and it's really just about where you are on your journey with Conserv. So let's see here. I'll launch this one. So I'm really just curious to know, for the folks that are on the call, are you totally new to Conserv? Are you using some of our products, our free software? Are you using our sensors? Okay, great. Okay, cool. Let me get some results in here. Okay, that's wonderful. That's most people. So most people on the call are Conserv customers. So welcome. It's good to see you guys. And I look forward to hearing your feedback as we go through this call. And there are a couple of people here who are somewhat new to Conserv. So I'm glad to have you here too. If you are in the group of new folks, just a little bit about us. So Conserv is a company that is completely focused on building tools for preservation professionals. The primary product we have out in the world right now is an environmental monitoring solution that's built by and for preservation professionals. We have a free piece of software that anyone can use. If you have environmental data already from another set of data loggers, you can bring it over to the platform. And that software also includes IPM tools as well. So that's us, and we're just going to jump right in, and I'm going to share a little bit about what we're up to with the microclimate sensors, and then we'll have time for questions. So we talk a lot about our values internally at Conserv. This is something that we have been we put together about a year ago, and it's really become a core part of our culture. And so I want to share this with everyone on the call. And by the way, this is being recorded, and we're going to share it afterwards. So, there's this question of why are we out trying to figure out if building a microclimate sensor for preservation is something we should do. And so I just want people to see how we think about our own organization. And it really, it comes down to being really focused on the types of people that we serve and listening, being curious about feedback from people, and then being brave enough to go and try some things, take some risk to improve the state of the art in the field. So this is a little bit about us. I recently wrote a letter about our commitment to the preservation community. There's a link here. If you haven't read it, I'd love for people to see it. It really is how we think about building products and how we think about serving our audience. So we are fundamentally a very customer centric business. That's our DNA. And that's really what this talk about is today. It's not really so much of a talk. It is I'm going to present some ideas and get some feedback from people. So just want you to see this. We'll be sharing this more externally. We'll be talking about this more as we go forward because it's an important part of how we work. So the topic today is exploring a new microclimate product. And over the last 4 to 5 years of running this business, we've heard from a lot of people over and over again that there are gaps in the current solutions for monitoring microclimates. So here's some of the things that we've heard from people just recently. So you'll see this link in the bottom of a couple of slides to take the survey, but these are some results that have come in through that survey, where we ask people, why bother building something new, right? What are the gaps in current products that could be addressed with a new product? And I'm not going to read this slide. You can kind of get a feel for it. So the question we're posing to ourselves and to the community is, should we try to build a better product for this particular problem? And it's very much an exploration, right? Building new products carries with it certain risk. It costs, there's financial resources involved. And we want to build a good case for why we should do this. And we want to do that with the community, right? We are trying to meet the needs of collections and people like you on this call for this particular issue. All right. So if you haven't already taken this survey, you'll hear me bring this up a number of times during this call. I really encourage you to do that. It's 4 questions. It's not a very lengthy survey. We're really asking things like, what are the gaps in current products? If you had a magic wand and you could build something that was just right for you, what would you do? Right? These sorts of questions we're trying to get a sense of what is interested you in a microclimate product. And just to be clear, when we talk about microclimates, we're really talking about anything that's not sitting out in the open in a room. So cases, vitrines, other enclosed spaces where the climate is meaningfully different from the ambient space. All right. So this is the exploration, right? Should we do this? And our simple vision for this product, before we even brought this out to the world, was to cover these 6 areas. And the most important one is the community-driven piece. So we built our software based on feedback from the preservation community. We built our sensor based on feedback, our current sensor, and when we're looking to build this new sensor in the same way. There are lots of data loggers out in the world, right? And so we have this question of, should we build a new product, or should we go and maybe find a data logger that's already out in the world that's built by someone else and try to integrate it nicely? And that's an open question, right? We're not sure what the best way to do that is. We need to learn a little bit more from y'all. So if you've used our current environmental monitoring products, which most of the folks on this call have, they're wireless. And that's meant to be something that obviates the need to go and manually collect data. The data shows up, there are alerts when there are problems. That that task of manually collecting data kind of goes away. The number one photo I get from friends and family is a picture of a data logger in some kind of case when they're out at a museum, right? It's usually not ours, right? But it stands out to me because when you are looking at a case with current data logger solutions, the first thing you might notice is the data logger sitting in there, not necessarily the object. So we're looking to design something that doesn't get in the way of the presentation of the collection. We want to understand what people are doing currently with cases that you have built yourself or things from manufacturers. We want to make sure it integrates nicely into current designs. And importantly, like the microclimate environment is different from the ambient environment. We make sure that this sensor is contributing to valuable insights about what is going on in that unique environment. And then because of the sensitivity of opening cases, we want to build something that is highly reliable. So maybe it's not quite as accurate as other sensors, but maybe the battery life is 5 years, just to give you some sense of the trade-offs, right? So if the batteries are really long, if there aren't any issues with the sensors that you don't have to open the cases, that's really important in this. It's important in every scenario, but it's particularly important in this situation. So these are some of the themes that we're working on here. So I think I'll just stop right here because I do have another question that I'm interested in. This one is a poll. It's about sensor gaps. You can pick as many of these as you like, but for people on the call, what are the most important gaps you see in current microclimate sensors? I'll just pause for a minute. As I was putting this together, it was like it was clear to me that I'd probably be clicking on all of these. But I'm curious for folks, what are the most important ones that really stand out? Okay. I've got answers from almost everybody. So I'll stop it right there and we can take a look. Most data loggers out in the world are still manual. They're not wireless. So I feel people on that. Having a non-wireless option in case is difficult. It either has a display screen on it, and you're walking up and reading the display screen, or you're perhaps having to open the case. Both not great options. And then poor battery life, same thing. So we've got things locked up in a microclimate. We don't want to open it. So okay, that's very good. That's really great information. Well, thank y'all. So the reason this is an exploration for us is that building new products is risky. So we're trying to lower the risk in a couple ways. The first is by inviting all of you into this experience. And if you've had a chance to read the CEO letter, or for many of you who are customers who've worked with us, we have a customer promise of really trying to listen to people. And we're going to really double down on that with this particular exploration. So we're inviting people to join us in this process. So there'll be surveys. If we get a little bit further along in this, there'll be working groups, there'll be focused interviews, and there'll be lots of transparent communication about the process. I am very excited, assuming this has legs and we go forward with it. I'm very excited to have people follow along as we build a new thing, because we're going to really go over the top on sharing what it's like to build a sensor. From the electronics to the specifications to designing the enclosures to getting it manufactured to getting it integrated into our software. Like, how does all of this work? There's a lot that goes into it, and it's a challenge. So I'm excited to take everyone through that process with us. So that's the first thing. We're going to take some risk out of the project by making sure that we are really clear on what people need, and that we believe we can build a product that's at least 10 times better than what's already out there. If we're building something that's just as good as everything else, that's not really interesting to us. We want to build something that is exceptional for this group. So that's the first thing. And then if we're going to go and build a new thing, it's also really important to us that there is demand for that product, right? It does take significant financial resources to build a new product. And so we are trying to figure out if there, at a minimum, if there are 500 microclimate sensors that we could put out in the world. So for people that are interested in this project, we will be trying to learn more about your particular situation at your collection, right? How many microclimate sensors, how many microclimates do you have? How many of them might need to be monitored? We will want to learn now. We're trying to understand the scope of the problem, so we can ensure that it makes sense for us to do this. So here's a little quick question about that, right? This is not about how many microclimates are monitored in your collection, right? But if you just had to close your eyes and think through the various spaces in your collection, how many microclimates do you have today? All these results that are coming in are totally anonymous, by the way. This is all just aggregated data. All right, that's great. That's most. Still got a few answers trickling in. Okay, great. It's most everybody. Okay, so it's a pretty even mix. And my guess is for some of the people in the 50 plus bucket, you might be in a much higher number than 50 for some truly large collections. So okay, that's good to know. That doesn't surprise me at all. I'm really happy to see that. Right, we like to think that we work with a huge range of collections, from small historic homes all the way up to large national collections. So that's wonderful to see. Okay, great, thank you. So this presentation has been kind of light on details up to this point, and it's going to be that way on purpose. What we want to do as next steps is to make sure that everyone who has some interest in this has filled out the survey, right? And we are going to go in there and aggregate all of those qualitative results and share them back out with everyone who's participating, right? Here's what people are saying about this particular problem. And that's going to be the foundational thing we use to understand if there's something better that can be built, right? So this is going to be shared with everybody afterwards. So there is a resource slide in here. There's an information sheet that many of you guys have seen about this particular problem that we're working on. There's a link to the survey, a link to the letter, and also some links just on general Conserv stuff. So if you're not a software user and you'd like to be, right, if you'd like to talk to someone on our sales team, all the above. Okay, so that's in here if you need it. And then I want to open this up now for Q&A. So we're on Zoom, and if you look on your Zoom menu, there is a button there that says Q&A, and you can really ask anything. And I'll give everybody a few minutes to have a think and see what's on people's minds. This is truly any kind of question is open for discussion right now. One question that we have is about the size of the sensors. It's actually come up from a couple of people. My expectation for this product is that it's invisible in the case, or we're able to get it down to a size where my relatives aren't sending me photos of data loggers in cases, right? And so if you were to open, this is our existing product right now. I mean, so there's some question about, well, why don't we just stick this particular product in a case? And in my mind, it's just too large. So if you were to open this box up, there are two pieces in it. One is a circuit board that has the radio, the memory, the processor, right? Kind of the computer parts, right? And there's another board that's about the size of a quarter that has all the sensors on it. So relative humidity, temperature, light, those pieces, right? And those boards are separate, and they're separate for a reason. At the end of every 3 years, when we replace our customers' sensors, we're replacing that small sensor board, right? So we don't have to throw the whole thing away and start over. We're opening up the device. We're taking that quarter size sensor board out. We're replacing it. It makes it easy to refurbish these things, right? And it contributes to a more circular life for our products. So the idea would be to, on a cable, pull out that smaller quarter sized sensor board and as a probe, and that would be what would go in the case, right? So that's the idea. Yeah, okay, so we're getting a lot of questions now. So someone's asked about color. It's a great question. It's probably a good idea for these to be able to blend in really nicely. So on our current sensor product, we do sell a cover, a paintable cover that goes over the device. Testo also has one of these if you're familiar with that product. So we have something like that for our current product now. And I think it makes a lot of sense in the new product to have a similar option. Maybe it's not a paintable cover, maybe the enclosure for that small quarter size piece is something you could take off and paint. But that's the kind of feedback we're looking for, like, is that important to people? So, yep. Some other great answers here. Other great questions. A question about probes for framed items. Yeah, we haven't discussed that. So that would be, I'm assuming we're talking about a probe that sits on the back of a frame. So yeah, it's very possible that the design that we're talking about could potentially solve that need as well. So yeah, that's an interesting point. And then someone's asking about, could these be used not just in display cases, but also in storage boxes? Again, another use case that we haven't thought of in this particular discussion. So yeah, I mean, it's really, this is why this is an exploration. So that would really be a question of, are those use cases similar enough? Same thing with the frames, right? Are those use cases similar enough that having something that potentially has a probe coming off it would work in a transportation scenario or a storage scenario, or would work to attach to a particular collection object? Yeah, that would all be feedback we would want to hear for sure. Yeah, this is great. Yeah. So someone's asking about our current setup with the sensors in the gateway. So if you're a customer, you know this, but we have a sensor product that connects to a gateway, which is kind of like a Wi-Fi router, but it's not Wi-Fi. It uses LoRaWAN. So question is about the range of that sensors in the gateway in particular. And I saw this in a lot of the feedback that we've gotten so far. People talk a lot about loans and loaning things out. And wanting to monitor the environments that those loaned objects are in, and also borrowing objects and wanting to be able to monitor the environments of those borrowed objects as well. So that's a big use case here. if you loan something out, it'd be great if the borrowing institution had some wireless real-time stuff set up, so you weren't having to constantly go back and forth to get data from them on environments. And our goal is that setting these up is really easy. And for some of our current customers, I think that we haven't completely nailed it yet. And we're very sure about this, right? It's meant to be you plug it in and it just works. That's our customer promise, right? And so this is something that we're still working on. And then we have a new sensor design that's going to come out later this year. And one of the big changes in it is a much, much improved antenna design on the device. And so our expectation is that the range on the sensor with that new antenna design will be at least twice as good. And so that's something that we're testing right now. The range is already much, much better than Wi-Fi, but it should be much better than it is now. So there's some expectation that the range will improve a lot. Yeah, so one more question, and then out of respect for everyone's time, I want to wrap it up. So someone asked about cost, and I think cost is really important here. Right now, our sensors that you would put in a space, they cost $280 a sensor a year. It's not an inexpensive product, right? So we believe it's a good value for people, but I think there is a really fair, open question about, can we drive more cost out of all of our products? And in a situation where you have lots of microclimates, if you're able to put better monitoring in 25% of them, but you still have to do manual stuff on all the rest of them, that's not really fixing the problem. So I'm very interested to see how much cost we can drive out of this for people. And that being said, we aren't trying to compete against low cost providers. We will probably never be the cheapest thing available. It's just not, it's not how our business model works. We provide a lot of support to people, a lot of technical help. We're very hands-on. It's a different kind of experience. But as part of this exploration, we absolutely will be asking the question, what should it cost? And making sure we find a price point that works for people. Okay, great. Thank you. I know that was kind of a quick lightning round of questions. So we absolutely will share the recording with everybody. And I want to thank everybody for being here. This is really just the beginning of this. We would like to try to launch something this year, if we can. And so what that means is in the next month or so, we're really focused on trying to figure out if there is enough demand for this kind of product in the market. And a lot of that's going to come down to the details, of course. What does it cost? How does it work? Will it work in this use case or this use case? What does it measure? What's the battery life? All these things, right? So we want to start working really closely with everyone who has any interest, right, in talking about some of those details, right, and trying to figure out what's possible and to start to define the product a lot better. All right. So I'll be leading the effort there. Melissa's on the call. She'll be right alongside me working on that. We're going to spend a lot of time talking to current customers. Dave Mason is our product leader, who at the end of the day is responsible for the design, development, and execution of our products. So Dave will be very involved too. So anyone who's involved in this conversation with us will get to spend time interacting with the members of the team and sharing your feedback. So thank you everybody. I know this was a quick little intro, but again, just thanks everybody for your time, and look forward to an email follow-up from us. All right.